But first, to what's going to be the story of the coming decade, the menace of communist China, particularly now under its aggressive dictator, President Xi Jinping. Now, in some ways, this is already coming to a head. You may have seen over the past couple of days some of the appalling violence in Hong Kong, and you may also have heard how two of our own politicians have just been banned from visiting China. You see, China is testing the world, and the test is, how much will we defend our values? Or will we sell them out for a bit of peace and a lot of Chinese money? Now, I'll come to Australia in a minute, because some people today, politicians, journalists, gave a very ugly answer to that question. But in Hong Kong, thousands of people, students particularly, have made their choice. They've chosen freedom and are putting their lives on the line to fight against China's growing control over the former British colony, to demand a vote and a free press, free speech. For nearly 6 months now, they've battled China's puppet regime in Hong Kong. And yes, the tactics used by some students have been increasingly getting very ugly. Over the weekend, they fired slingshots at police, threw petrol bombs, shot arrows, and turned parts of Hong Kong, once a great financial centre of Asia, into something that looked like a war zone. Most of the violence over the weekend occurred at one university that's been occupied by students for a week. When police yesterday tried to break through and arrest them, they were first turned back, but this morning they crashed through, arresting scores of protesters, as well as medics looking after them. Around 40 people were taken to hospital. Also on the weekend, China sent Hong Kong a very clear warning. It sent its troops garrisoned in Hong Kong out into the streets to clear away some of the damage caused in the rioting, which seemed innocent, of course. In fact, it's menacing. China promised it would not use troops in Hong Kong without the agreement of the allegedly independent government there. Well, that government did not agree to this. In a minute, I'll bring you my interview with a woman China blames for organising the democracy protests. But in the meantime, if you want to know how sinister communist China is, well, there were two more developments over the weekend. First, a study in the BMC Medical Ethics Journal. It accused China of covering up how it's still forcing prisoners to give up their organs for transplant, and how it's paid poor people a lot of money to donate theirs. Taking organs out of prisoners, that is barbaric. Second, there was an extraordinary leak to the New York Times from someone within the Chinese government, maybe there is an opposition there, of 403 pages that exposed how China is cracking down on its Muslim minority in Xinjiang, exposing how President Xi ordered officials to show no mercy, how officials who did show mercy were sacked and jailed. And the documents suggest a number. 900,000 Muslims in China have been arrested and sent to re-education camps to make them give up on Islam and swear allegiance to China. Well, some Australian politicians have criticised China for these outrageous abuses, and others, like China arresting Australian writer and democracy activist Yang Hengjun, who's been jailed there for nearly a year now without a trial. And two of these politicians, Liberal MP Andrew Hastie and Liberal Senator James Patterson, have now been punished, banned by China from going on a study visit. They've been told by China's embassy here to repent. Repent, basically shut up, let China do what it wants without criticism. Now, you might think that that kind of lecturing from China crosses a line. Because, sure, we will trade with China. We'll sell China our coal. But we should not sell China our values. Unfortunately, it turns out that some influential Australians, just like China's dictators, would rather the rest of us pipe down about things involving our values, about small details like the crushing of freedom in Hong Kong, like the stealing of the South China Seas to our north, like ripping organs out of prisoners' bodies, or arresting Australian writers or jailing 900,000 Muslims. The people saying that we should shut up about such matters, or suggesting we should, include former Prime Minister Paul Keating, who has for a long time, I should add, been on the International Advisory Board of the China Development Bank. I wonder how much he gets paid for that. Here he is today.
There's alarm in Australia at the scale and speed of China's rise, and this comes out particularly in the hysteria in the media. The Australian media has been recreant in its duty to the public in failing to present a balanced picture of the rise, legitimacy and importance of China.
Here is Labor's Deputy Leader Richard Marles also hitting out at the so-called hysteria over this dictatorship.
There's also, you know, like you made the point in your interview this morning, Dennis, at a level, a hysterical debate, I think, going on in Australia.
And on that theme, here is something absolutely extraordinary that I never expected to hear from a presenter of our national broadcaster, the ABC. Listen now to Melbourne ABC host Virginia Trolley just this morning attack Senator Patterson for daring to criticise China's human rights abuses.
If you start describing China as an authoritarian foreign power when they're supposed to be our close trading partner, and when, as your Treasurer Josh Frydenberg says, we must manage our differences, you're actually part of the problem, aren't you? There's truth, and then there's just being critical for its own sake and also offensive of a foreign power that means a great deal to us. How about being a bit more discreet or a little bit more diplomatic?
What a shameful position. There was more on that line. That's your national broadcaster. Do not be rude to the dictator. They might get upset. Crawl instead. In fact, how about we do like Melbourne's Box Hill Police Station did on China's National Day and run up the Communist China flag already? Thing is, if a country doesn't stand for its values, it's not really a country anymore. And if it doesn't stand for freedom, it will lose it.